Welcome back, reality designers, to another deep dive.
Great to be diving in again.
Today we're venturing into, well, the fascinating and maybe for many kind of new territory of sigil creation.
Yeah, you might have heard the term floating around.
Exactly, maybe wondered what it actually means. So consider this your personal exploration, your Rosetta Stone, if you will, into this ancient art.
Right. And for everyone joining us, our goal today, it's sort of threefold.
Okay.
First, we want to clearly lay out what sigil creation is all about, especially if you're new to it.
Good starting point.
Second, we'll dig into some key principles, the important do's and don'ts that kind of emerge when you look at the history.
And finally,
Finally, some practical tips. How you can actually create your own sigils and maybe think about how to incorporate them into daily life.
sounds great. And we've got some interesting source material for this, right?
We do. A really rich collection, actually. Everything from like old dictionaries of occult symbols to explorations of how they were used in art and secret traditions.
So let's unpack it. Let's really try and get to the core of sigil creation.
Let's do it.
Okay, so for listeners who are maybe hearing this term for the first time, let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is a sigil?
Good question. The word itself, it definitely has a bit of mystery about it, doesn't it?
It does.
Our sources tell us that way back, the wise folks, the philosophers, as the Greeks called them,
Right.
they used figures, various methods really, to keep certain knowledge kind of hidden, whether it was about nature or, human activities.
And why hide it?
Well, one source from the 17th century, Crollius, mentions it was partly to stop the wrong kind of people, his words, from getting hold of these ideas.
Interesting. So the word sigil itself wasn't just picked randomly.
No, not at all. It seems quite deliberate. One of our dictionary sources points out that common words like symbol or sign, well, they're just too broad for this specific context.
How so?
Well, a symbol often needs an explanation, right? It can be very literary. And sign is even broader. It could be anything from a gesture to a traffic sign.
Ah, okay. So they lack that specific feel.
Exactly. They lack that specific occult, or maybe more accurately, graphic sense that we're really talking about with sigils.
Got it. And there's something compelling about them, even for people maybe not deep into occult history.
Definitely. The source highlights that even someone just casually interested in, say, astrology or its history can get drawn into the inner meanings of these sigils.
Why is that, do you think?
It's like they speak an arcane and cosmic language, almost like a shorthand, an abbreviation that points towards something bigger. The source calls it a higher order.
A higher order, like an underlying pattern or structure in things.
Something like that, yeah. It suggests a purpose beyond just being, a pretty design. There's intent there.
And this connects to art and culture too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really fascinating. Discoveries have actually linked sigils to symbolism in medieval and Renaissance art.
Can you give an example?
Sure. There's mention of Taurian Piscean symbolism found at a basilica in Florence, and also specific sigils used within Rosicrucian symbolism in Geneva.
Wow. So these weren't just dusty concepts in books.
Not at all. They were embedded, really woven into the culture and the art of the time. People were seeing and using them.
And there's even a suggestion they might have influenced bigger movements.
Yeah, one source floats the idea that these occult concepts, maybe transmitted through sigils, could have played a part in the development of Renaissance art,
Really?
possibly contributing to that freedom of human expression that really characterized the era, before things got tightened up later by the Council of Trent.
That connection to major historical shifts just adds another whole layer, doesn't it?
It really does. It shows how these ideas, these symbols, weren't isolated.
So for our deep dive today, what kind of sigils are we focusing on?
We're primarily looking at sigils that have become part of the Western tradition. So we'll be drawing from various places, alchemical texts, astrological records, even some of those, secret alphabets.
Sounds like a rich mix.
It gives us a really good range of examples to explore together.
All right. So moving on from what they are, the historical texts don't exactly give us a modern how-to guide, right?
No, not directly like step one, step two. But they absolutely offer valuable insights into the principles behind them, the intentions.
And from those principles, we can kind of figure out some do's and don'ts for people listening who might want to try this.
Exactly. We can infer some guiding ideas.
Okay, so what's a key DO?
Well, first and foremost, do consider the intended meaning and purpose very carefully.
Be clear on your why.
Precisely. Historically, sigils were meticulously designed to encapsulate specific things alchemical processes, planetary influences, maybe even spirit names.
So that idea of pointing towards a higher order.
Yeah, that essential purposive nature the source mentions
Yeah.
really underscores how vital clarity of intent is. Know what you want the sigil to represent for you.
Makes sense. What's another DO?
Do you maybe look into the history or the visual origins, the graphic etymology of existing symbols related to your intention?
So see what shapes have been used before for similar ideas.
Right. It's not a hard rule. You don't have to, but understanding historical usage might spark inspiration or give it more resonance.
Like the astrological sigils you mentioned?
Yeah, the dictionary source even mentions some astrological sigils have these imaginative, graphic etymologies, stories about how their shapes came about. It can be inspiring.
Okay, so those are some DOs. What about the don'ts? What should
Right.
people avoid?
Well, building on the clarity point, don't create sigils with unclear or worse, conflicting meanings.
Keep it focused.
Exactly. Our source notes that editors rejected some historical sigils because they were unreadable, seemed like bad copies, or had really questionable meanings recorded.
So if the historians were picky about clarity,
It strongly suggests you should be too, for your own creations. Aim for a clear, singular intention.
good advice. Anything else to avoid?
Don't just assume a common symbol automatically has some deep, esoteric meaning within a sigil context.
Oh, interesting. So just because it looks mystical.
Yeah, just because a familiar shape appears in a sigil-like form doesn't guarantee a specific occult interpretation. Many symbols we think of as esoteric might belong to more mainstream traditions with different meanings entirely.
Be discerning about the symbols you choose or adapt.
Right. And another DO, kind of related, do be mindful of potential misinterpretation.
How so?
Well, just like terms, like the source mentions geomancy being misused sometimes today.
Yeah.
The visual language of sigils can also be misunderstood if you're not approaching it with awareness and clear intent. Your meaning might not be what someone else sees, or even what you originally intended if you weren't clear.
Okay. Intentionality is key. One more DO.
Yes, deconsider the power of combination.
Knotting elements together.
Exactly. Historically, sigils were sometimes combined to express more complex ideas. We see this in alchemy and Rosicrucian symbolism.
So you could explore layering different graphic elements to represent nuances in your desire.
Precisely. It suggests you might explore how different visual components can work together to capture your specific intention more fully.
Okay, that gives us a good framework of principles. So let's get practical. How can someone listening actually start creating their own sigil?
Right. So drawing from that historical spirit of, distillation and focused intention, we can offer some guiding steps.
Step 1.
First, clarify your intent. Really nail down what specific outcome, what state of being are you aiming for. Be precise.
Get specific, no vague wishes.
Exactly. Then try to condense that desire. Distill it down into a short, clear statement, like a personal mantra or motto for that specific goal.
Okay, got the statement. What's next?
Next, you visualize. Really hold that intention, that statement in your mind. Feel it. Let it resonate.
Immerse yourself in the feeling of it.
Yes. And then comes the translation into form. This is the creative part. Translate it into form. Start experimenting. Abstract shapes, lines, curves. Maybe even play with stylizing letters from your condensed statement, breaking them down, combining them.
What feels right intuitively?
Exactly. What visual elements feel connected to that intention for you? Our source mentions basic geometric archetypes: point, line, triangle, square, used in Hermetic ideas. That could be a simple starting point.
So you've sketched out some ideas. Then what?
Then you simplify and abstract. The goal usually isn't to make a picture of your desire, but an abstract glyph.
Something unique and personal.
Yeah, something that represents its essence without being obvious to others. That personal, slightly secret nature echoes why arcane knowledge was often concealed historically.
Makes sense. Then once you have the final design,
The final step is often considered charging your sigil.
charging it. How?
This just means imbuing it with your focused intention. You can do this through meditation, intense visualization focusing on the sigil, or other personal practices that feel right and meaningful to you, concentrating your energy onto it.
Okay, so you've created and charged your sigil. What now? What do you actually use it for in daily life?
Great question. The applications are really personal, and they can be quite varied, much like the historical uses we talked about.
So no single right way,
Not at all. One major use is simply for focusing intention.
like a visual anchor.
Precisely. It serves as a tangible reminder of your desire, helping keep it present in your mind.
What else?
It can be a tool for meditation and contemplation.
How would that work?
Gently gazing at your sigil during quiet time can help deepen your connection to that underlying desire or state you're aiming for.
Okay.
Many also find it contributes to a sense of personal empowerment.
Because they're taking active steps.
Exactly. By creating and working with this symbol of your will, you're actively participating in shaping your reality. It's a proactive stance.
I can see that.
And the creation process itself can be a source of creative inspiration.
The act of designing it.
Yeah, it's a kind of visual meditation. It can spark other ideas and insights, totally unrelated sometimes.
And just practically.
Practically, it can just be a subtle reminder of your goals, something you carry or place somewhere to keep your aspirations in view.
So lots of potential uses. How can people weave this into their everyday routine without it feeling, I don't know, weird or complicated?
That's key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finding methods that resonate and feel natural.
Yeah.
So a few ideas. Drawing from that historical context and the desire for practicality.
Let's hear them.
Simplest is probably using it as a visual reminder. Draw it small, maybe on paper you keep in your wallet, or the first page of a journal.
Somewhere private but accessible.
Right. Or even subtly on an object you use often. Just seeing it can reinforce the intention.
Okay, simple enough.
You could also use it as a meditation focus.
Like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, when you meditate, just gently gaze at it. Let the feeling of your intention surface.
For the more creative types.
Incorporate it into personal artwork. Doodles, paintings, digital art, whatever you enjoy. Weaving it into your creative expression.
Making it part of your flow.
Exactly. Another way is as an affirmation anchor.
How does that work?
When you're saying affirmations related to your goal, visualize your sigil at the same time. It gives the affirmation a visual symbol to connect with.
Anchoring the words to the image.
Precisely. And finally, if you're into energy work or more focused visualization practices,
Yeah.
you can visualize your sigil radiating its intended energy. See it glowing, sending that intention out.
So lots of ways to integrate it depending on your style.
Absolutely. It's about finding what feels authentic and useful for you.
So wrapping up then, it's clear that sigil creation and use isn't some new fad, it's an ancient practice.
Deep roots in history, yeah.
Yeah.
Connecting art, esoteric traditions, and that very human drive to understand and maybe influence our world.
We've really only scratched the surface here today, haven't we?
Definitely just scratched the surface. But hopefully, listeners now have a much clearer picture of what sigils are about.
And some guiding principles, those do's and don'ts.
Right, and maybe a spark of inspiration to actually explore their potential in their own lives.
And the key takeaway seems to be,
I'd say that the most potent sigils are born from clear intention and personal resonance. It's less about complex ritual, more about focusing your will.
visualizing your desired reality in a tangible, personal form.
Exactly that.
So as we finish, maybe a question for our listeners. What stood out most to you from all of this?
Yeah, what questions are still bubbling up? We really encourage you to dig deeper yourself. Research the history, if that sparked something.
And most importantly,
Experiment. Try creating your own. The journey of the reality designer is all about learning and active creation, right?
absolutely, it's an ongoing process.
So if you found this deep dive insightful, please do subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations into all things reality design.
Like this discussion if it resonated, and maybe share it with someone else who might be curious about the power of intention and symbols.
Until our next deep dive, keep designing your reality.
With awareness and intention.